The tendrils slowly uncoiled, the brown washing away, fading to a violet green. Then the leaf began to uncurl. Its dry, brown surface began to wash with emerald that had been its. What the fuck? I lost myself. Ah, oh, damn, I gotta restart that. Then the leaf began to uncurl. Its dry, brown surface began to wash with emerald that then seemed to stain, ebbing to a pure black. The plant stood as erect and tall as it had in life. The regret she had for letting it die several months ago began to fade.
I can't believe it worked.
Ash scrawled wildly into her notes as she spoke the same words aloud.
And it works in the exact same manner as reanimation.
She stared at the phoenix mark on her hand.
Meaning that somewhere out there, my pair is supplementing my power. If they were only a bit closer, I could reanimate something larger. A tree, perhaps.
That's rather amazing. It looks much healthier than anything else I have seen reanimated.
Elfnod struck one of the leaves, cocking an eyebrow.
Yes, that's odd.
You're sure it's not like a golem?
No. You see, golems are completely different. They're not restored to any semblance of life. They're more like puppets. Yes, there's bodies underneath the armor or clay forms you often see them in, but that's because you can't even turn false life into false bodies. There's just something about organic matter that lets it hold on to that spark.
Oh, could you make a tree golem?
What's in with golems? Boy, stop.
I don't know. I'm not actually a specialist in golems. The only one I've ever made was during my trials.
You know, I could have used your help with the plants I kept in my room on the island. They're all dead, too.
Well, I'm not even sure of the practical uses of this spell yet. Are these plants, for example, safe to eat? Will they eventually die again like most reanimations? Or can undead plants persist because they're not constrained to such a delicately balanced body structure and system as what we typically reanimate?
Are you asking me?
No, I understand. You're still learning even the basics of paladin magic.
Are you asking me?
No.
I've actually already advanced a class. Passed my trials so easily that my instructor is preparing the next set. Hektor has been an excellent tutor.
Yes, I hear he's quite skilled.
Ash rolled her eyes.
I had thought you were avoiding them because of your feelings, but if I had known the advances you had been making on your research, I am sorry for assuming the worst. This is amazing.
Looking from the plant, Elfnod gave a hopeful look.
Can I keep one?
Oh, yes, sure. Please do.
Thank you.
He lifted the black leaf plant and held it up reverently as he examined it.
Do you want to get breakfast?
It's breakfast time?
Were I to not know better, I would say you were spending too much time with Hektor.
Yes, well, hopefully he's not still skipping sleep researching my mark.
No, that enthusiasm seems to be spent on his time with us.
How are you and Belinda getting along?
She's a good girl.
Belinda? This is the same Belinda, right?
She is. She's got a thick and spiky shell, but underneath it, she's just a girl who didn't ever expect to be here, let alone be here for as long as she has. She's actually quite sweet.
Now I'm convinced Hector found a way to manipulate people's minds.
Elfnod laughed.
No, I think that a few months spent with each other is enough to help you recognize the good parts of others. And to have them grow on you.
Elfnod gestured with a plan as he smiled.
Speaking of spending time, how much more time will Heck need you?
Later today is our last session, actually.
Ash raised her eyebrows.
The coincidences will never cease, eh? Do you want to attend the ritual? There's a lot of people who have heard about it. Even a few graduates have returned to the mountain to attend.
Yes, actually. I'd like to actually see what you have been working on.
You should bring one of your plants. Mr. Warlock would light like a pyre.
Light like a pyre?
It means to get excited. Witches used to have rituals where the very skilled among us would be burnt on a pyre.
What?
There were components to protect them from the flames. I don't really know how it worked. I wasn't much of a witch, if you remember.
That sounds terribly useful. Immunity to flames?
I don't even know if it was those particular flames, or flames in general. Might have even been an illusion. No one did the ritual while I was there.
Ash felt her stomach rumbled.
I think I need to get some food.
I will go with you. Bring a plant. I'm heading to training right after.
Sure.
Ash chose a pot in which nested in a tiny black bush with a rose as dark as ink.
Let's go.
The two wove through the catacombs of the mountain and found their way into the kitchen. Outside, spattered across the tables that served as the dining room, the few remaining mourning stragglers finished their meal. At one, Ash found Belinda sitting across from Hector and Prude. Ash grabbed a bowl of the stew proffered by the tall and thin cook who stood behind the counter. He gave her a wide grin and a second helping.
I didn't see you yesterday. You can't skip meals.
Ah, thanks.
Knowing that this person was worrying about her made her feel oddly content. She joined a group a moment later.
Hey, gang.
She might as well try to play nice. She missed Prudence.
We're a gang now? Ooh, I wasn't aware we were participating in illegal activities.
The comic gardener laughed from the group and Prue laid her head on Hector's shoulder.
I honestly don't know if you're joking or asking, and somehow that makes it funnier.
The only thing criminal is the amount of studying I've done over my winter break.
I assure you there is no legal limit to studying, else I would have found it.
Belinda groaned, but her face brightened when Elfnod arrived behind Ash.
Mind if we join you?
Please, have a seat. Where have you been? I swear I haven't seen you in what must have been months.
I kind of got caught up in my research.
Is that why you have that rose?
Hector's eyes widened.
Did you figure it out? Can I see it?
Ash offered the small pot, and Hector took it with the care might handle the most fragile of glass.
Oh my.
Hector went in silence as he buckled over the plant.
Well, I hope you didn't need to talk to him. He's going to be silent for the next half an hour just looking at it.
Prue gave the plant a glance herself.
Reanimation?
Yeah.
I thought you had to have your pair to perform reanimation.
There haven't been many tests to determine the range at which a pairing can share magic.
I estimate the upper limit is outside of any reasonable test range.
Oh, he's actually paying attention.
I know better than to ever completely ignore you.
Aw, that's sweet.
Ash was surprised how little it bothered her to see Prue kiss Hector on the cheek.
Time is the greatest of healers.
What was that?
Nothing.
Looking across the table, she found surprise elsewhere, catching Belinda laid moon eyes on Elfnod. That couldn't end well.
So, what was the trick?
Trick?
I mean, how did you do it?
I'm still a little bit shocked he's actually talking.
There wasn't a trick. I had to completely develop a new spell type.
Would you be willing to teach it to me?
I might as well learn it too, if you're offering.
I think I want to do some more research before I start sharing the spell.
Ash braced herself, expecting Hector to refuse such a flimsy excuse. Instead, he nodded.
I understand. Just tell me if you need help.
Sure, thanks.
So, Elfie, are you ready for the ritual?
Yes, of course.
What's so special about your session today? Elfnod said something about performing a ritual?
That's because we are. We're actually going to be performing the pairing ritual.
Ash screwed wide.
Ugh, don't worry. They've actually done it twice before. And while they weren't well trained enough to complete it successfully, they were not compatible.
I imagine the heads would attempt to stop me were they to think I would be creating pairs outside of the early ritual.
Hector, Warlock, what did I tell you about the heads?
Hector turned from the plant and blushed.
Treat my elders with more respect.
Yes. Now stop acting like you intend to overthrow the orders.
Yes. No, you are right. I am sorry.
Prude gave Ash a wink. Apparently she had tamed the savage beast.
Not that I couldn't if I wanted to.
Hector screamed to the hole in general, mostly tame at least. Ash finished her stew and let out a sigh. She hadn't been eating properly, and the extra serving had helped. The cooks were disturbingly absurd sometimes. For a moment, she wondered if there were a magic to cooking, and if perhaps the head cook mistress Hunt was some sort of head herself. Ash dismissed the idea and watched as Hector finished his third bowl.
Looks like everyone is here. Should we head straight to the garden?
Can I keep the flower?
Sure.
I will call it George.
You don't need to name plants, Heck.
George!
Mostly tamed.
I shouldn't need to tell you what to do. Begin.
Belinda took in a deep breath, and for a moment the garden hung in silence. Even after having been told, Ash was surprised to see she wasn't the only spectator. There were at least another 24 students, and judging by the few pairs sticking to the back, yeah? My mom just made pierogies. I love pierogies. I can't say no to pierogies. Like, I put it to the side real quick. Gotta talk. There were at least another 2 dozen students, and judging by the few pairs sticking together to the back, at least 2 graduates. Elfnaut Flare was such an intense flaming white light and that a gas ran through the crowd. The amount of power he produced easily rivaled that of any graduate, and somehow made Ash flush with pride by proxy for her friend and recent confidant. Belinda took another deep breath, but nothing happened to her. Elfnaut light began to pour forth, beginning to bridge the distance between him and Belinda. Hector's face was bleached by the light, as his eyes were darkly wild, and he silently mouthed something. Belinda's third breath seemed to tear shadows from the earth beneath her, coiling and around with tendrils of pitch darkness. Extending a hand, the tendrils coiled around her arm and reached outwards. Ash was shocked that 2 months ago these 2 had been remedial students. This control of their energy showed an amount of technique reserved for the likes of the heads. As soon as the 2 touched, there was a flare and explosion. She had been prepared. Prude and Hector had warned to brace herself through. They had not provided the luxury of that warning to any of the other attendants. While the rest of the crowd was drawing themselves back to their feet, Hector looked over the pair with a smile of satisfaction.
8,312 meters.
Would you mind explaining exactly how you calculated that?
Came a voice from the crowd. A commotion began to rise before a sudden bark of excitement broke over the noise.
I have a mark!
Silence fell like a hammer.
What?
Elfnaut turned to Ash with a grin and revealed a black flower on the back of his hand.
Rather pretentious, no?
Belinda was beside him in a moment, showing Ash the stain mark.
You have to teach me your spell now. It's fate.
The 2 exchanged hands, looking at each other's marks. Their eyes met and they smiled.
Well, Ash, we should probably pack. We're going to be thrown out.
Ash looked for Hector, already gone from where he had stood before.
Where did Hector go?
I told him under no circumstance would he be allowed to overthrow the orders, and that when we got thrown out, we had to leave. He said he needed to pack. Do you need anything specific from your room?
No, not really. I have everything I really need memorized. Clothes, I suppose?
A small part of her regretted not going to retrieve healing plants, but it was childish to cling such fancies.
Meh. My mother will buy us some new equipment.
Ash watched as a number of sudden students began to retreat, fear on their faces. The graduate pair from earlier was gone.
Do you have any idea of what you have done?
The voice from earlier. Ash looked for its origins, finding a thin woman bearing down on the retreating Hector.
The ramifications of this are far beyond any of your earlier antics.
Nissa, this is not the time.
I am sure you think this will be seen as a good thing, but your variation of the ritual will be far from it. The ease with which your ritual can be performed will create situations where casters, entirely unprepared to become a mage, will pair. The kind of power gained through a pairing will create pseudo-mages with far more power than training. I think we may be able to prevent this kind of behavior in the mountain, but can't you see?
Nissa, stop.
The woman glared, remaining silent for a moment. Oh, this bitch. Hector used the moment of silence to continue his retreat, and the last time then it took her to continue her tirade. He was gone.
Fool.
Nessa spoke as she watched him go. With narrowed, predatory eyes, she turned to meet the gaze of Ash. A shiver ran down Ash's spine as their eyes met. She quickly turned away to let out a short string of obscenities over the shivers. Did she need to wear more layers or something? This was getting ridiculous. When Ash turned back, she saw Nissa was marching towards her, a purpose in movements and expressions. No, she was mistaken. She wasn't coming for her. She was coming to...
Rude, is it? Prudent Celeste, royal princess and heir to the Celeste throne.
That's right.
I cannot determine from what little I know of you why you might be paired to someone like him. You certainly don't appear to be cut from the same cloth.
How can you...
Perhaps it's a situation of opposites attracting. You're paired under the mark of the spider, no? Which one of you is the spider, and which is caught in the web, I wonder?
Ash readied herself for a shiver and was pleased to find that it didn't come. She silently celebrated her victory as she continued to watch the interaction.
Neither. Mark reading is purely nonsense. More importantly, who are you?
This is Nissa. She's a graduate from the same class as Hector.
Ah, and you are?
Ash.
The woman's eyes snapped back to Ash, now gleaming with recognition. Ash tried to casually hide her hand behind her back. Nessa nodded curtly, looking away.
Ash here is correct. I was in Hector's class. I graduated as a poison and venom specialist. Were it not for Hector, I would have been top of my class. I would have been the top of any class in the last 10 years, if not for him. It is hard to believe he still performed so well amidst his, how shall we say, antics.
Antics?
It's hard to believe his reputation is not so well remembered. Likely for the best.
Ash waited for Nessa to explain further, but she merely grew silent instead.
Venom and poison specialist, how is that useful?
An ignorant question. Surely you are aware that most mundane medicines are a poison of one sort or another, if used improperly. The same holds true for poisons. In the appropriate application of a venom or poison, one can heal. My partner is a masterful healer. Combined, I would argue we are the most prominent healers on the continent.
Isn't Hector a knock specialist? Doesn't that mean he has the same speciality as you?
Nissa tried to hold back a scowl.
Admittedly, in a way he does. But claiming to be a knock specialist is like claiming to be a magic specialist. It is claiming specialization in an enormous category. It's a ridiculous title. That having been said, I have no doubt that given whatever he is, he could replicate what I do, and more.
What he is?
I should not have said that. It was rude of me.
As the din of crowds grew, Nissa looked about and then turned back to Ash.
I must take my leave, as, enlightening as this was, I would rather not suffer the fallout due from the heads.
She slinked away, a sharp-shaped half-hidden...
I must
Oh my
take my
God.
leave, as, enlightening as this was, I would rather not suffer the fallout due from the heads.
She slinked away, a shape half hidden behind the pillars of the country yard. falling into step immediately behind her. And it's my stop!